Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of HCTalk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Greg Hanson, who is a local favorite. I'm going to say that, Greg, because there are a multitude of things that you do here in the community as far as, I mean, just to name a few, which I'm sure we'll get into during the program, but most people are very familiar with Sand Creek Summer Daze Festival. You started that. A lot of people know all about St. Gregory's Day Parade that takes place on St. Patrick's Day every year. Greg started that. Greg's been a two-time president of the Rotary Club. I could even go into things that you're a part of just with, you're a Knight of Columbus. You're part of the Knights of Columbus.
Grand Knight. Chapter.
Okay, so then, there's just a plethora of things that Greg has chosen to invest in the community. I've gotten to know Greg very well over the last few years, and I've always appreciated the effort and the time that you put into these things. And when I was thinking about who I could invite out on the program that would just be able to really be somebody that people could watch this program and know that there are so many people in this community that go above and beyond to invest. And for you especially, I don't even know what I would say as far as being, I'm not going to call you the party guy, but you're somebody that just looks for time and time again ways in which you can provide something for people in the community to do. And I know that there is so much back end work that goes to that a lot of people don't see. They were just able to come and enjoy. And I just really appreciate you, Greg. I want to say that just straight up. So like anybody that's watched the program before, they know that we always start with just you a little bit of short bio or kind of what you would like to share with the audience about where you grew up and what your life looked like and how you found your way to Newton. So where were you born? Where do you hail from, Greg? Are you a Kansas man through and through?
I am a Wichita, Kansas boy. Okay. Born and raised Wichita, southwest Wichita, a little town called Schulte, primarily south of the airport there, Eisenhower Airport. Dad was in the Air Force. Mom was a dairy farmer here in Kansas, and they met. My dad's from Northern California, and that's why I'm now in Wichita area.
Okay. So when you went to school, did you go to school in Schulte?
I went to school at St. Peter Schulte, graduated 9 kids in 8th grade, so it was a huge class.
Yeah, of course. 40 kids together in the whole school, right?
There was about that, yes. There was 8 grades, first through 8th grade, 2 classes per room, no air conditioning, so when they say, hey, we need air conditioning in the schools, I laugh. I'm that
you
age.
Want people to grind it out just like you.
I'm at that age. I'm at that age. We had one dictionary on the podium in front of the class that we used. One dictionary. It was really large, and kind of grew up on a dairy farm. Grandpa quit milking probably when I was younger because my grandma passed away. But we kept one cow until I moved away from college, and I was like, why now do you sell the cow? Because I'm not here to help. So it was one of those things.
So you grew up in an agricultural setting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when you said that your mom was a dairy farmer, you meant that the dairy farm was the family farm.
That was the family farm. And Grandpa had the farm, and then all 3 of the 4 kids, his children, my mom, my aunts and uncles, moved around the farm. My wife calls it the compound. Yeah. That we grew up on.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that. When you talk about going back in time, when families, it takes a family, right? And then that's a generational thing. So you have the farmhouse, then you have the old farmhouse, and then you have another place that might get built for to ensure that a third generation has the ability to be there on premises, on site, to negotiate everything that comes with agriculture. So that's interesting. I didn't know that about you, right? But okay, so your high school years. I know a little bit about you. You're a basketball star.
I had the best pregame and sat the bench the rest of the time of anybody ever played basketball. Went to Bishop Carroll. Didn't start. I just rode the bench, but it got me through. It got me into college. I just loved basketball. Played a lot. My first 3 semesters, I went to Wichita State, and you go from Bishop Carroll to Wichita State, and you realize, I could sleep on the couch and not go to class, and no one beats you over the head. And it was great, and that's why I was academically dismissed from the Wichita State University back in the day, and just kept playing basketball throughout the summers. And St. Mary of the Plains basketball coach saw me playing during the summers, and I think they offered anybody a chance to play because he offered me a chance to play. And went out there and played I was ineligible first semester, played a little bit of JV second semester, hurt my knee, and then just stayed there because I loved back in the small school atmosphere, which I was raised grade school, high school, now college, and raised my grade point average up significantly, and graduated from there in 1991, St. Mary of the Plains in Dodge City.
Okay, so now does that place still exist?
It closed in 92. I like to say at the reunions, and everybody that doesn't know the school exactly, I closed it.
Yeah.
Because of my personality.
Well, maybe they were looking for, a basketball star, and they thought, man, this guy, he's going to take us to the nationals, and all they were betting on you, Greg. They were betting on you.
And I let them down significantly.
No, that's what. Okay,
Right.
So you're out in Dodge City. Once you graduated, did you come back to Schulte, or did you just hang out there in Western Kansas and do something?
I met my wife. I stayed 1 year after because the girl I was dating was there. And I met her and ended up getting married, having a child, and living in Dodge City for about 10 years. And then moved to Sublette, Kansas for 3 years because she was with JCPenney's. And we moved quite a bit from there to Sublette, to Lawrence. And then I moved to Topeka, and then back home to Wichita when I got sick.
Okay. So, so you just went home then at that point in time, basically to be around family because you were sick? Okay.
I was on dialysis, peritoneal dialysis. You're on a machine 9.5 hours every night, hooked to a 28-foot cord that works throughout the night to give you dialysis. It's different than the blood dialysis. I favored it because I didn't want blood dialysis, and was on that for about 1.5 years for my transplant.
Okay, so I gotta take a step back here. Okay, so and share only as much as you want to share.
Sure,
obviously, because now we're getting into I'm going to ask you medical questions. I don't want to be like that to you, Greg. But you just threw a big one at me, right? So do you care to talk about? Okay, so what's the reason for the dialysis?
Well, I was a diabetic from age 18. Something was wrong with me, and went out drinking with a friend, which we did a lot during my Wichita State days, thus the academic dismissal. And we had a hangover the next day. Well, my friend was a diabetic, and his mom was worried that because I was sick too, she was just kind of paranoid. So I took a blood sugar just to prick my finger, and it was high. Went in to get checked out, and I found out I was in the honeymoon stage of type 1 diabetes, which is your pancreas is still working a little bit, but it's failing. And when I found that out, I ended up being in St. Joseph's back in the day for about a week, was trained on how to take insulin and things like that. So they caught it early. But I was a diabetic for 28 years. In those first 10 years of diabetes, I didn't take care of myself like I should. And that led to 28 years later, kidney failure. So it was mostly my fault. Some genetics in our family, I think, but mostly my fault. And that's what led to stage 4 renal failure and then naturally dialysis.
Well, you say it's your fault, but I'll tell you, my dad is a diabetic, right? So that's a big lift, right? Most people that have not experienced diabetes don't understand that, there's not very much you can do right and a whole lot that can go wrong. I mean, down to like the things that most people that don't experience diabetes just take for granted, like eating an orange, or having a little bit of peanut butter, or just these very nuances. I guess nuances. What I said, just it's very difficult to walk through that process of being a diabetic and being a successful diabetic, because it's not success, it's management of such, and even then, people that have experienced or a loved one or themselves have diabetes, I mean, like I said, sometimes that's you just hardly can do anything right, and it just progressively seems to get worse. So I wouldn't hang that hat on yourself too hard, because having my own experience with that is realization that that's just a big lift. That's a big lift.
Well, you can, and there are people who are precise with their management of diabetes, and they live long lives, and it can be done, but it's a lot of, it used to be counting carbs back when I started, because carbs equals sugar, and that raises your blood sugars. Nowadays, it's a little bit different, And nowadays with the invention of your, like I was on an insulin pump for about 15 years, but right when I was cured, they started having the patches that you can wear that monitor your blood sugar all the time. With technology's advancements, it is really easy, not really easy, easier to manage your blood sugars and take care of that. So it is a lot of diet. I mean, diet and exercise. You know, if your dad's type 2, that's a lot of exercise and diet related. Being type 1, it's your pancreas is not working anymore. So it's not weight driven. It's not disease driven. It's not necessarily.
It's not necessarily manageable.
Yes,
it's just something that gives up. It's like your heart.
It is all manageable. You just have to be very careful with what you do.
Okay, so then you mentioned renal failure.
Well, renal failure is basically your kidneys die. You're dying.
Okay.
And they caught mine in stage 4, which just means they're almost dead. And they no longer help clean the toxins from your blood and let you live, basically.
What you're saying is at some point in time, you had what I would consider a deathbed experience.
Yes, I had my teeth worked on in Kansas City, School of Dentistry, and they take your blood pressure. My blood pressure was extremely high, and I was not on any blood pressure medicines at the time. I went to my regular doctor, who was a diabetes / regular doctor of mine, and he looked at me, did some tests, and I was driving back to Topeka, where I was living, because he was in Lawrence, and he says, Greg, I have you set up with a kidney doctor tomorrow. It looks like your kidneys are failing. And taking some tests in Topeka, they basically said you're in stage 4 renal failure, and you will either be on dialysis the rest of your life, or you can choose to have a transplant and live. So it was one of those aha moments in life where everything stops and the world changes.
Yeah. Okay, so just you said that. So is there any way that you could explain to the audience what was going on in your mind and your heart when you were given that information?
It's right now, it's like nothing happened. I could do it over in a heartbeat. But when you hear the word transplant, you're thinking, I'm going to have an organ from somebody else, voluntarily or deceased, put into my body to let me live. And it's really, thinking back to those days, it's really, how do I do this? It's a transplant. It's a transplant. It's something major, the biggest thing you could ever have done to you in your life. And it just scares the bejesus out of you. It's just like, okay, I can do this and live. I can stay on dialysis and die after a while, because you can't stay on dialysis the rest of your life and be functioning, and moving around like I was used to. I was playing sports and refereeing high school basketball. I was playing softball. I was umpiring softball. I was helping coach at that time some girls fast pitch. I mean, it's just a lot of different stuff.
Yes. Okay. So I know a little bit about transplants. Usually, when you have to get on a list of some kind, and then from there, it's a waiting game. Okay. So you probably had to experience the moving up, moving down, or just knowing that at some point in time, I'm going to get a call that says I have very little time to get to wherever I need to get in order to have this operation to be able to get a transplant. Is that similar with what happened to you?
It was. Usually when you're in the top 3 to 4 to 5, you'll get a call saying, hey, there's a donor that matches you. You're third, you're second, you're first. I think the first one I got, I was 4th or 5th. And you don't think too much, because I'm not going to be able to do that. And then one time I got a call saying I was second, and you get excited, and they said, well, someone else took that. Then the next time I got a call, said, oh, by the way, you're third. And I'm like, wait, I was second, now am I third? And I think they rank those in need, like if someone's maybe dying at the time or this or that, you float up and down. And there was a point in that where I'd been on the list for about a year. And first of all, I was on a double transplant list. It's a complete separate list than a single transplant, because once your pancreas dies, they're going to replace your kidney and your pancreas, because they don't want diabetes to take out your new kidney. Okay. So your kidney and pancreas. So it's a separate list, and it's a lot quicker than 3-4 years on a regular waiting list. because you're a deceased donor. I'm no longer on a living donor list. I'm on a deceased donor list because it's a double transplant. So it got to one point where I went in and I was number one. I was in KU Med. I was in bed, and they stop your drugs and everything you're doing. They stop your dialysis and give you. I was in the waiting room, given the drugs, getting ready to go in. The kidney doctor comes in and says, "We're not doing it." I'm like, "April Fools," and they go, "No, the pancreas. No, sorry, the pancreas is too fatty, and it's not great odds it'll survive. Maybe the kidney will." I'm like, "You have to be kidding me." He goes, "No, I'm serious." And the precursor to that was the gentleman, bless his soul, he was passing away in prison. He donated his organs so that someone else could live. So to me, there's no higher calling than someone that's going to live their life in jail, passing away and giving their organs so that someone could live. So, bless him and his family. But I couldn't receive that. So they'll give the kidney to somebody else, and they will disregard the pancreas. The funny part of that story was that he had a STD, and I can't remember what it was. And they go, "Well, you will catch that STD through the blood, but we'll get rid of that right after the surgery and give you meds because it won't stay with you. It won't go away." And I go, "Wait a minute. I got an STD, but didn't get the fun of having an STD." No. I mean, there's things that lead to STDs that are a lot better than a transplant. So that's how I got through the whole thing, was my sense of humor. When you tell the doctor that, and he is a staunch Egyptian one of the top 5 United States transplant doctors, and he gets a little smile on the side of his face, you did good.
Yeah.
And that's why I always kept my sense of humor throughout this whole thing, was because having that deep of impact in your life is you're going to die or you get a kidney transplant, it really helps.
Yeah.
The humor does.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just on the humor thing, do you feel as though that was a go-to for you for optimism and to keep your spirit up? I mean, have you always just been a funny guy, I guess, and used humor? Or, I mean, or was that where, when you're looking at life or death here, and what you're explaining is something that is a roller coaster ride, and even though you're getting a transplant, that doesn't mean that it's just, go in for your surgery and everything will be fine here. I mean, there's a lot to that. So why pick humor?
I think humor is just genetically built into me. I always loved being funny. I always liked humor. I was always a shy kid, so I didn't use that as much as I do currently and now, and throughout the whole process of what happened in my life. That's how I cope. My wife says I have too many little doors in my brain where I just move stuff into and shut the door and don't deal with it correctly.
Compartmentalization.
I compartmentalize everything. It's like, okay, I'll deal with this in about 10 years when I can. But humor helps me just slide stuff into those little compartments. And it did help. People are like, "Why are you so funny?" And Facebook quite frankly, MySpace and Facebook gave me the outlet to show my humor for me to hide pains and aches and this and that throughout life. Whether that's wrong or right, it works for me. Yeah. My brother died when I was in college. He was in a trench cave-in in northwest Wichita, was in a coma for 3 years. He passed away. Before that happened, I was 18 and got diabetes. So humor is always my way. Okay, we're going to slide this here. My brother's in a coma. He's going to pass away. I'm sliding this here, and just humorize everything. So that's really helped me through that antagonizing point. Even saying that to the doctor, "Wait a minute, I'm getting an STD, but I'm not getting the fun of having an STD," and that's just the way I dealt with things.
Yeah. Okay. So, going into this surgery, if you can recall, I mean, I'm interested, Greg, if you can recall before, as they're giving you, you're there, that you are going to go into surgery for, to have some major organs replaced. What was something about that experience? Like, I mean, I almost want to narrow it down and say, when they're having you count down, what were some of your final thoughts when you went under for surgery?
Well, before that, once I came out of that, I was sick as a dog because I couldn't get the transplant. They backed everything off. Yeah. And then I got sent home. And mentally, that was probably one of the toughest parts of my life, even more than finding out you're dying with stage 4 renal failure, was I just went in, prepped in the room before they go into the room, and was not getting my transplant, which I'd desperately waited for a year and a half for. So what I did was we were going to have a family reunion in Nevada with my dad's side of the family. So I called, whether it's good or not, I called the waiting list people and I said, if I take myself off the waiting list for a week, do I lose all my spots? They go, no, you immediately return to the spot. So I said, I'm off the list, and I just went away for a week. You know, if you can imagine taking Amtrak out to Sparks, Nevada, with you know, you can't do the machine when you're doing all that. I hung a bag and did all my stuff on a train, you know, at night so no one could see, going to Reno, and I just wanted to get away, so I did that. And I actually got a call. I'm off the list, but I still got a call saying, hey, you're up right now. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not on the list. And that plays with your mind.
Yeah.
And got back on the list immediately when I got back. And that was in May, June. And July 3rd is my Independence Day. That's when I got called and went in. And everything was successfully transplanted and everything worked great.
Yeah. So when you woke up, okay, instead of right before, because you know you're on a roller coaster ride on top of now all of a sudden you're way up, right? You didn't see that part of the roller coaster, and then you're way down, and then you come back up. You're in a spot where now you know I'm going in here. This is going to happen. What was the first thought that you had when you woke up?
Well, the first thought I had when I woke up is it's not as much pain as I thought it would be. I had 38 staples from the bottom of my sternum all the way down to my pelvic bone, where they kind of just flayed me open like a fish, just because the pancreas goes on one side, the kidney goes on the other, and most kidneys it's just a small scar where they just put that in there and they fix it. Well, they had to open me completely up for, you know, pancreas on one side, the kidney on the other, and the first thing I thought of, and this is my humor. When I woke up in the ICU after post surgery, I woke up and they go, Greg, do you know where you are? And I said, yes, because I'm in KU Med, and I knew where I was. I woke up and I go, yes, I'm at K-State Med, is what I said to him. And the doctor,
Wildcats.
The doctor starts laughing and looks at my wife and my two sisters, and my mom's sitting there, and they go, he's fine. And that's exactly what I said when I woke up. I said, I'm at K-State Med. And I'm a KU fan naturally, but I said that, and that was the first thing I said at surgery. So I know I had my sense of humor still there.
Yeah. And then of course, because that's been a go-to for you, knowing that you can still be in that state of mind that, well, this is good. You know, the future of what I'm gonna, because that's a slow road to recovery now. So you know, you wake up, you're there, K-State Med, you're you're already flying jokes out there. Give me a little bit about, you know, when, because at some point, even though we can use humor, there's some reality that has to set in, and it's that you know, you just had a transplant, you got a long road to recovery.
You're ecstatic because in a couple of days you feel completely better than you've ever felt before. I remember that the 4 or 5 days after, I was sitting there, and I'm, for 20 years of diabetes, you're used to eating sugar-free food, and I ordered sugar-free Jell-O and sugar-free pudding, and the doctor was in the room. He goes, no, that sugar-free stuff's poison. You eat stuff with sugar in it now. You are healed. You are cured of diabetes. You eat normal food now. And I went, that's the first thing in your head, was you're trained to do this as a diabetic all your life, and now everything is wide open. I remember being in the hospital, and I remember, like, right before I got out, checked out and I had to stay in Kansas City for another week because of appointments and stuff. So I asked my friend Chico, that's his name, and he goes, do you need anything? I said, yeah, would you bring me up a hamburger and fries? So naturally, as good friends do, he calls Marisa and he goes, hey, can I bring up Greg up hamburger and fries? She goes, absolutely not. And I went, son of a, God, you guys.
Why? You're my wife. Stop trying to take care of me.
You guys suck. And he didn't bring it up. He just came up and said hi. I'm like, really? Come on. And then, and that was like 7 o'clock in the evening. The next morning he said, oh, you can eat anything you want. And I'm like, I told you. Oh, I know myself better than you guys do.
And Marissa's sitting there shaking her head.
She's like, no,
he can't. No. We've been managing this for a long time now. This is not an option.
You're not messing this up.
It's a complete switch, right? Almost in a way, we don't think about it this way, but even down to your consumption habits have a lot to do with who we are, right?
Sure.
Our likes, our dislikes, and what we like to consume, right? So eating, big part of our life, all of us. But there also had to be a switch that flipped in your brain at some point the realization of I am healed had to come across your mind and realize that you no longer have a death sentence, but you have a new life ahead of you.
That's true. And the switch flips to, when am I going to get the transplant? What if I die during surgery? What if this? And I didn't think too much about the death during surgery. I'm pretty solid in my faith. And it's funny because before every major surgery, I got anointing of the sick, which is basically a Catholic sacrament. And I've had like 5 of them before this happened. And I was on a plane the other day flying, and the priest was sitting next to me, and I go, by the way, I've had 5 anointing of the sick, so if the plane goes down, don't worry, I'm okay. We were flying out for our cruise. So then he laughed, and he goes, I don't think we'll have time to say one anyway, so if we're crashing in the plane. But no, it's your mind goes from, okay, you're trained this way, you're trained to eat this way, and all of a sudden now you can do this. And it's pretty quick. But God has his ways of playing tricks on us as well, because I crave sugar all my life, being a diabetic. And I drink a lot of Diet Pepsi, Diet Pop. I gave up pop in 2013 while my kidneys were still trying to live. And I was so sick at the time as well, so I didn't notice the caffeine, going through all that. So all of a sudden now I come home and I go to the Hog Trough, which is the restaurant where it's all you can eat. Like, we call it the Hog Trough in our family, because that's kind of what it is. And so I go there, and I'm just eating cotton candy. Sorry.
You're right.
I'm eating cotton candy. I'm eating everything. And my wife just looks at me and goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I've never had this all my life. After that day, we can't even buy a pie at our house. It'll go bad because I don't have that sweet yearnings anymore for that stuff. Again, God's like, well, you craved it before, now you're healed, you're not going to crave it.
Right. So that's interesting. That is very interesting, because now that you could have just gone over the cliff, that your desire to have, that's the interesting thing about human nature, that oftentimes we as individual desire something that we can't have, but then when it's permissible, it's almost as though it loses its flavors, and not the right word, but it loses its somehow in our minds and our bodies. It I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it loses its flavor. Greg. It's like all of a sudden, hey, you can't have it, man. I really want it, but then when you can't have it, it's like, maybe this isn't everything it was cracked up to be. Yeah.
Well, it's just, to me, it was just like, what does your body want? What doesn't it want?
Yeah.
I want sugar. No, I don't want sugar. But, as far as diet goes.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, okay. So I'm going to assume that, you were active. You mentioned that you were active, but at some point health catches up to people, right? In your case, obviously you were just progressively getting worse, and life was more difficult. Then you had the transplant, then you had the healing, you got the rebound. Was there a aha moment at some point in time where you were on the rebound and you're like, okay, so I'm going to go out here and I'm going to start living the rest of my life to have my best life?
Not really, because I always been fair to people. I've always been morally and ethically grounded. Yes, because of growing up, semi-poor. We didn't know it, and just worked all our lives. The dairy farm mentality, or I didn't work a lot on the farm, but we lived next to it, so we're associated with baling once in a while, or doing this and that.
Farm life is 80 hours a day.
Yeah, and that wasn't me. Let me tell you. So I didn't have the aha moment. I just went, okay, what am I going to do now? Okay, so I ended up finding the job up here in Newton. Grew up with a family from St. Peter's and Schulte that I work for now, and I thank them for for where I'm at, for helping me out, because I was with State Farm for about 7 years. I didn't want an office job anymore. I want something where I could move and sit and do a little bit of everything else. Met my wife up here at the time, my girlfriend, my wife now, and then stuff started blossoming out. What I tell everybody is I finally found a pond that was a perfect size for my personality and what I want to do with life. Because you can live in all these huge towns, you're just a little tiny tadpole. Yeah. You can find too small of a pond, it just doesn't fit. Or you can find the perfect size pond where you can move about and do things that make an impact and be positive in your community. And that's what I finally found here. I was fortunate enough where my wife was respected enough in town through the stuff she did, her job. She was raised here, and the boards and charities she worked with. That when I tried, like the festival, a perfect example. When I started that, going out asking for money, I was a stranger, but I was a stranger. That's Maurice's husband. Yeah, and that once I got my roots in the ground here, that's when I was able to do more things and take off.
Yeah. Okay. So, bringing me to that point was I know that you're a Rotarian, mm-hmm. and I know you were a 2-time president in Rotary. I often say that the work is much and the hands are few. So when you get into any kind of a civic organization, sometimes that's the same. You have people that just decide, I want to go be part of the civic organization because it gives me a way to give back. Well, you're talking time, you're talking money. So for a lot of people, entering into a civic organization, then to take a leadership role in that just doubles maybe the amount of time and energy and effort that you need to put into it, so it can be successful for other people to do that with their time, but not as much of a time commitment as somebody might be in leadership. So at some point in here, you weren't a lifelong Rotarian, right? So at some point, did somebody ask you, hey, would you like to be a Rotarian, or is that something that you just went out and did? I kind of understand the being a Knights of Columbus. Mm-hmm. If you're a Catholic and you're an able-bodied man, then of course, obviously, that's kind of a direct path that many Catholics choose to take, because that's just a wing of the church in a way that you can serve, right? So that makes more sense. But who invited you to Rotary? How'd you find out about Rotary, and why was Rotary the place for you, Greg?
Well, I think my civic service began when I was asked by the Chamber of Commerce to be on the board for those 2 to 3 years. Somebody went off the board or quit early, and they needed a replacement. So I think someone said Greg Hanson might be interested, and they asked me, and I was. So I moved onto the board at that part, and that's kind of started the civic type stuff, service I do. And then in 2017, when I was I kind of helped out with a little bit of the duck race United Way had, and I was sitting with Michael Lunsford, and I said, why don't we have a festival? And he goes, we used to, it's gone. Why don't you start a new one? Well, that's all I needed was Michael to say that, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Well, what happened was I found people who were interested in helping. There's like 5 or 6 of us who said, yes, we need a festival, including the late Melody Spurney, who was with the Newton Convention and Visitors Bureau. She saw it as a positive for Newton, which was great for us. And I met Rod Cry, who was did a lot of stuff in the community. He was our treasurer. We needed a sound person who everyone trusted to have the money that we were doing. So when we go to ask for money, yes, it's with Rod. They trust it. It's going here. And Rod is a lifetime Rotarian. And I started with, he goes, why don't you come to a Rotary meeting? And so I did. And that started my civic service as far as giving back to the community or giving back to mankind. And he kind of said, oh, by the way, now you're a Rotarian. I didn't choose. He told me I was. Yeah. And then it's a funny story. And then the next thing you know, he said, okay, by the way, you're going to be president in 2 years. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Rod,
okay.
just pulling you, just got that hook on.
Yeah.
He fished you, and then he hooked you, and then he reeled you in, and you're fish fry then at that point.
The thing I'm happy with is that he saw that in me and trusted me that, and that's why I love him so much, because he trusted me and in that position said, okay, I know you can do that. Here you go. And you say that what I saw was how much Rotarians give back to Newton. Any club you belong in, whether you belong to Kiwanis or Lions, it's an awesome job you do. I just believed, and I didn't have a choice, so I didn't go out and look, But being in there, I just like the way Rotary spends money on organizations and people and moving forward in Newton.
Dictionaries, the whole thing.
That's my favorite part of that. But that's how that service part started. It's, I feel good giving money to people who need it in the community. Same thing with Knights of Columbus. We have a $90,000 budget, we work with, that I've had to work with a couple years now, and we give money to needy people who need, whether Catholic or not, we still give money to people who need that, and that makes you feel good. Once you do that, and that's what I need to put this out to younger people, I don't think you know what it's like when you service above self, Rotary motto, and you go out and you just volunteer for a few hours, or volunteer for this, or volunteer to raise money for somebody. It feels really good inside.
Yeah.
And that's where that kind of started in my life with Rotary. And you say, two-time Rotary president. Well, it was supposed to be a one-time Rotary president. And the next person who came along, she ended up getting a job in Wichita. Person after her got a job somewhere else. So it's like, by the way, you're Rotary president again this year. I'm like, oh, okay. But it was,
it should be easier the second time around.
But it sounds really good on your resume when you say, I'm two-time Rotary president. Yes. So I'll take it.
It's
that's
like
fine.
Two-time champ,
That's right.
you win once,
the other guy
that's great. But
the other guy died, so you're two-time, so yes.
So it wasn't like a knockout, but
But it looks great on the resume. So that was two-time.
Well, and you mentioned something about, and I understand what you're saying, being part of civic organizations or finding some way or somehow to serve, whether that's just being the hands that help pick up trash, or being somebody that has a little bit of money to donate, or being somebody that's just there for their neighbor. There's a lot in service and what you get out of it just by showing love to your fellow human. That's what we're talking about. Ultimately, if it's in money, if it's in time, if it's in service of some kind, there is a reward there. There's a reward, and it's not one that's an immediate gratification, right? Obviously, because it's like going and helping somebody work on a project. The project from start to finish might take a lot out of you, but then looking back and realizing, man, I was there to help with that project, whatever that might be, and then to know that there's people that are able to benefit from that. And in many cases, when it comes to civic organizations, it's those who are the most in need. Something, speaking of Rotary, that I know about that I'm really appreciative that Rotary does is they have organization established that will raise money and quietly, for the most part, quietly give it to high school students. It's or students, not just high school, but to work in conjunction with the school system to be able to give money to youth who might not, or whose parents might not be able to. And it's not just money. Tell me a little bit about that, Greg.
Well, the Rotary Foundation was started, I think, right before I was president or during that, and that was the board, our Rotary board. We started that as part of the anti-bullying campaign, because when kids come to school with the shirts, they wear the same shirt for 4 or 5 days in a row, the same shoes, their shoes are falling apart. It's in high school kids' blood DNA to make fun of people sometimes, because maybe they're hurting somewhere else, so they're deflecting that and making fun of somebody. You know how bullying type
Pointing
works.
out things that are different about
somebody. Yeah. So what we did is like, okay, we need to give the high school a checkbook. So the principal keeps the checkbook, and if the counselors come to him or teachers come to him and say, so-and-so can't afford a prom ticket, they need a prom ticket, they can't afford a letter jacket, they can't do this, they can't do that, well, we secretly step in, it's given to them, and they have no idea where it came from. Or we don't do like huge projects where we're going to rehouse somebody. We do the little stuff, and that's part of our anti-bullying campaign with Rotary, is that we will help those kids in need, shoes, socks, shirts, and things like that, prom tickets, anything they may need. I think we did build a wheelchair ramp for the young lady that got hit on the intersection. But we just step in, pay for it, and step away. We don't need to tell people it's Rotary. It's just something you do for a kid, a child, adult. They need that. We try to make that possible for them.
Well, I'm glad I brought it up on this program, because I do believe that it needs to be known, Greg. I'm somebody that believes that you're making a lifetime impact and the knowledge of where that lifetime impact came from opens eyes to, well, there's actually this organization that wants to serve people. And I think that because, it's likely that if somebody touched me or served me, that I, at some point in time, want to reciprocate that. Maybe even be a Rotarian one day, type of thing. Okay, so speaking of the thing that most everybody knows about, like you had mentioned with Michael Lunsford and us previously having what used to be called, like, the Chisholm Trail Festival or something like that, and then it kind of fizzled out, and then here you are, you have the idea, well, we need a festival. Somebody says you need to be the person to start the festival, Greg, and from there, then that's a heavy lift, right? You've got to get people on board with the idea, not only on board with the idea, but also committed to participate in getting it done, which is work, right? And a lot of people, they don't want to sign up to work. I mean, nobody's like, hey, let me help you, with your big lift. But you were able to get people involved with the idea. The idea then birthed action, and then from action, it came to fruition. Right. And I know a little bit of the history. There have been some ups and downs over the years when it comes to inclement weather and things like that. And you're finding and watching this, I'm watching you find your way through. Right. What works, what doesn't work. That, it's not something that just all of a sudden we're going to do it this way. This is what it's going to be. But just kind of, tell me just briefly the history, because we could rest on it all day. But then also, include too that this year there's going to be a Sand Creek Summer Daze Festival 2025, and as I've known this to evolve and change, people can always expect something a little bit different with a theme. And so just walk me through this process, Greg.
Well, when we started in 2017, our first festival 2018, we had Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and we started with a smaller budget. I think around $18,000 is all we had to start it, and we did what we could. We decided to let's have a barbecue contest. Let's have a home brewing competition, which was important. A lot of us home brewed back then, and let's do other stuff, a concert and something, and definitely some stuff for the kids. So we started small. We wanted to be on the creek, Sand Creek Summer Daze. Let's do the creek. So there was you could not put any motorized boats on the creek back at that time, and I'm like, why not? Yeah. So I went to people within the city, and they say, well, you got to have permission to, and you can't. And I said, well, who says that? And they said, well, it's the Corps of Engineers. I followed the ladder all the way down to Dallas, Texas, to find the big dog with the Corps of Engineers in this area. And he said, there's no reason why you can't be on the creek with a motorized vehicle. We don't control that. So what I did is I came back and I handed the letter to the city, and they changed the law the ordinance where if you apply ahead and get permission, we will let you do this, because they I think it's just a mix-up between both of those. And
bureaucracy at its best.
Yes, and the city's been incredibly awesome this whole time. People make fun of the city. I don't care about those people at all, because if you have a level head, you come to them first. Don't say mean stuff about them behind their back, or go to the press first and all the crap that goes on now. Facebook. You come to them and say, hey, I want to do this. Well, let me see what I can do to help you change the ordinance. And that's what we did. And we did that for a few years, and then you don't get a lot of participation on certain things, so we just moved it off the creek. Not that we ever move stuff back on the creek, but we just have the right events. So it's right by the creek in Athletic Park. And we had some good festivals. The first 4 years, we were rained on every year in the morning.
In June, no less.
The very first, it was August the first 2 to 3 years. The very first year on that Sunday when we had the professional it was a barbecue, but it wasn't certified yet, because Jeffrey Graber and Nate Regier had not joined us yet. And those were the guys that were responsible for us getting professionally listed and put on the you get points to go to the to Kansas City and things. We had 8 inches of rain that Sunday. We didn't cancel a thing. We had coolers with beer in them floating through the park. Somebody goes, hey, who's that? They had to run about 50 yards down and grab their beer and bring it back, their home brew, and to do that. So we survived the very first year with 8 inches of rain on that Sunday, and it's been simpler moving forward from then on. What we did is we just had ideas, Do they work? Do they don't work? And we just take them off the board if they don't work. If they're medium, we may try them again. If they're success, we build those as a key part of the festival. And that's what we've done for the last 8 years. And the timing, where we have it in the park, this year will be a big change because we're moving everything to one big section of the northeast side of the park where we had them separate. And that does several things. It moves everything together to help people move and see things. It also helps the city because they have to fund everything we do because we ask so that we don't pay for the fencing and stuff. So we try to move forward and say, okay, if this helps the city, it'll help us and the city because we want to be good community stewards to them as well. And that's what we've done this year. So everything in the festival moves, gets disregarded, put in place. We work every year to make it better. And last year we said, hey, I thought it'd be great to have the cops versus the firemen in Harvey County play a kickball game against each other.
Kick off the summer camp, the festival.
Kick off the festival at Friday night because having two concerts eliminated, we had half the people Friday, half Saturday, so it wasn't beneficial to us. Let's move one concert night. Let's do something else fun. Wildly successful. The cops, the law enforcement who protect us, and the firemen who protect us, they're all in different shifts. They never get a chance to see each other. They'll see partials. These guys came together and had a blast, and the families got to meet each other and see each other. And it was I got we get kickback from them and things. It was super fun for them, super fun for just the law enforcement family, for the fire department family, and them being together. And it's great because now see each other and they're like, we're getting you next year. Yeah, and it's some great discussions going on for this coming up year now with them going back and forth.
Yeah, and there's a trophy they get to pass back and forth too.
Yeah, traveling trophy. And I like to instigate. I'm an instigator. So you may see some billboards downtown that'll have a picture of the fire department with the trophy saying 1-0 on it. So the police officers have to drive by that every day for a week or two and see that billboard up there. And that's the fun stuff. Again, humor, fun stuff I like doing. Yeah. But the festival, it's come together that far. The 2025 festival, we will have the kids area. It's combined with the kids and the family events. We're going to have an H2O area where kids can, some refreshing, cool water and things like that. Once again, we'll go from like 10 to 2. Because of the heat, we'll stop and we'll go from 2 to 4. Nothing going on. 4 to 6 would be the home barbecue, the barbecue competition, which has changed a little bit. Anybody can get into it. You don't have to be a pro. Okay. And we're not doing any pro stuff this year. And then the home brewing competition, which has been very successful since we started that. One $10 ticket gets you in to try everything. You don't have to drink the beer if you don't like beer, but you can try the barbecue. And then right into the concert, and that's Saturday night. Thursday night, you have a button. Come see your hometown baseball teams. Yeah. Baseball team, play out there at the field. And that's really good because Kevin Pouch has worked with us saying, hey, we want to be part of the festival. We want to help the boys this summer out as well and watch the Newton kids play and be successful and hopefully make it to the NBC tournament. Friday night's a kickball game. We have a new country concert coming in. And we're going to have fireworks. For the first time ever, we have a fireworks show we're going to bring in after that's over as well.
Okay, so what I got so far... of the weekend of the festival, of course, and that's January 20th, correct?
Yeah, 19th to the 21st.
19th to the 21st. Okay, so Thursday night, you get out and you get to see the Newton Rebels, right? Then on Friday, you can go watch a kickball tournament with the firefighters versus police department. Then on the Saturday, there's something
don't
for the
forget
kiddos.
About Friday, country concert, and then the fireworks Friday.
Okay.
We're going to wheel the stage out in the baseball field.
Okay.
Where they just play kickball, have an hour and a half country concert. As soon as it gets dark, fireworks go.
Okay, so my order was off. So then, so Friday night, that's when you have the kickball. Then after the kickball, you have fireworks,
country concert, and then
fireworks. And then on Saturday, you got kids stuff,
kids and family area,
and then Saturday night.
Then at the afternoon from 4 to 6 will be the barbecue and the home brew.
Okay.
Which, you get $10 and you get to try everything inside there. And then from 6 to 10 will be the big concert, the Hall & Notes project out of Kansas City, and then Yacht Rock Radio. And the whole theme of the festival is hot summer nights. We're talking a guy sitting next to his airframe trailer in a lawn chair in a kiddie pool, sipping a cold cocktail with the flamingos around him.
Yeah.
It's just in a mullet. That's our theme this year. Just good old boy America.
Yeah.
Even our posters say
Newton, Kansas,
Newton,
America.
Kansas, America on there.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's the theme this year. It's just good old America. Relax, get out and put your lawn chair in your kiddie pool. Have a good cocktail by you, sitting by your Airstream, right next to you.
Yeah.
That's what we decided to do.
In like fashion, I got to say that embodies so many Kansans.
Yes,
right.
It does. Yes. Out in El Dorado Lake, out in Cheney Lake on the weekends,
you would have
just
seen
doing
what we
that.
look like in Newton, Kansas, America, right there. That's
right.
I love it. Okay, so. Greg. Okay, so my question, I guess, at this point is, you're involved in Knights of the Columbus. You're involved in Rotary, 2-time president. Sand Creek Summer Daze Festival. That's so many years running now. All of those things together, individually, are a heavy lift, but accumulatively is a massive lift. Okay, and knowing you very well. I've always wondered, Greg, because I want to know the why behind the action. Why do all of this stuff?
I love having fun with friends. Friends and fun and humor are what moves me through life. I'm not going to be a dedicated worker that puts his nose in the books and wakes up and I'm dead when I'm 70 years old. You move through life because of what I've experienced health-wise, family-wise, death-wise. Everything continues through. It's a circle of life. But in order to move forward, I have to have friends and family and fun. And I have to, being in Newton and since my transplant and new life as I move forward, giving back to people and giving back to the community. Going back to Summer Days, I couldn't do it without my board and without all the people volunteer, because all that weight was lifted off of me. I've got Rick and I've got Andrea and I've got Jeffrey and I've got Andy, and everyone is out there heavy lifting certain stuff at the festival, which at the beginning I was doing a lot of that, and they said, you need to give this up or you're going to blow your mind. Yeah. And the festival will be done. And reluctantly a little bit I did that, and they do everything for me and for us. I get to do the ideas and then raise money and things like that. But that's why I do all this, is because friends, family, fun, community, the things I do at home. People are like, why do you do all this stuff at home? Well, every year we have St. Gregory's Day parade. And that started after, with the Newton Now guys saying, hey, you should throw us St. Patrick's Day parade here so we don't have to go to Wichita. And we'll call it St. Gregory's. And we're going to dress in orange because you're Catholic and we want to get back at you and wear Protestant colors. And I said, I went along with it. So that's why you'll see, one weekend, not on St. Patrick's Day, but a weekend before, a weekend after, whatever, you'll see a bunch of people dressed in orange going around the block and coming back to the house. Then we go down. I have a 1920s speakeasy in my house, which I've worked on for a long time. And we just have a little party. I'm quarter Irish, I claim that. So we have a little bit of a party at the house. And in doing that fun friends and family thing, we have a patio crawl every year. We have 5 or 6 people that live in my neighborhood. We go from patio to patio to patio. And we have different themes. This year's colors. We're yellow. We were all yellow. Everything, food has to be yellow. Everything on the patio has to be yellow. And every year we have fun, just changing things up, doing stuff so we can be together. We lost, in my group, we lost a very special guy a year ago. And the things we do is with him in remembrance too, and to be together, because we realize, you don't live forever, and there's things you need to do in life to move forward. So that's kind of where I come from in doing all this with the humor and different things.
It's the why behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the why behind it. And Greg, I know I said at the beginning of the program that I really appreciate you as an individual, and we've known each other for time goes by,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, for 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. I think probably. Actually, it seems strange to think that it's been that long, but it's, I got to say it again. Knowing the why, knowing who you are, knowing all the ways that you serve, not only in what I would consider a professional capacity, but also such that what you've expressed and just providing things that can contribute to the quality of life for people in a positive, maybe you said humorous, but in a productive way. And I just am very thankful to call you my friend.
Thank you.
You know, I didn't know how the interview was going to go when you came out or anything. I mean, we know each other well, so the conversation should be easy. But it's just, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you sitting down with me and talking with me, because we could have done this without, viewership or anything else. But I think after we've had this conversation, for anybody that's listening, can honestly know a little bit more about who Greg is, why Greg does what he does. And I hope this turns around into people wanting to serve alongside of you and with you, and have some real takeaways when it comes to your perspective on life. Because as we've sat here and talked, Greg, I'm a serious kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And something that you've talked to me about and that we've talked about is that life is too short. Mm-hmm. It's way too short to not have fun, have some enjoyment, and leave some memories behind. So with that being said, I would like to give you the last word.
Sure.
Anybody that knows this, watches this program or knows how it goes, I always give the guest the last word to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. What do you got for us, Greg?
From one of the greatest characters of 80 movies of all time is my motto: all you need is some tasty waves, a cool buzz, and I'm fine.
All right, Greg. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to this episode of HCTalk. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program today was and I'm going to say it, the Greg Hanson of Newton, Kansas, America, founder of the Sand Creek Summer Daze, and the multitude of other things that we can attribute to Greg's service to our community. Thank you, everybody.